Brady Henderson was 42 years old and owned a small auto garage on South Perry Street in Spokane, Washington. Most people saw a quiet mechanic in faded flannel shirts driving an old Ford F-150 with rust around the wheel wells. Vanessa's new friends thought he was broke. Logan Pierce thought he was weak. What none of them understood was that Brady had built that garage to protect everything that mattered. Rain hammered the metal roof as Logan stepped inside, shut the garage door behind him, and placed one hand on Brady's toolbox. "You need to stop making Vanessa miserable," he said. Brady slowly looked up from the engine block in front of him. The tiny red camera light near the ceiling was already recording. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from and what your local time is right now. And if you enjoy slow burn stories about betrayal, patience, and quiet revenge, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Most mornings in Spokane started gray. Not storm gray, just cold Pacific Northwest gray, the kind that sat low over the rooftops and made every parking lot shine damp before sunrise. Brady Henderson liked those mornings. At 5:40 a.m., his boots crossed the cracked asphalt behind Henderson Restoration and Auto, while the rest of South Perry Street still slept. The bakery 2 buildings down had not opened yet. The traffic lights at the intersection blinked yellow. Steam rolled from sewer grates into the freezing air. Brady unlocked the garage with the same brass key he had carried for 11 years. The hinges groaned softly. Inside, the garage smelled like motor oil, cold steel, old rubber, and fresh primer paint. Clean smells, honest smells. He switched on only half the overhead lights to save electricity. The concrete floor was spotless. Every wrench hung in measured rows above the workbench. Every socket drawer had labels. Air hoses stayed coiled tight against the wall. Brady hated clutter. His father had taught him that messy shops created expensive mistakes. By 6 o'clock, Brady already had black coffee steaming beside the hydraulic lift. Outside, snowmelt dripped from the gutters. Inside, a 1969 Camaro sat raised chest high while Brady loosened rusted suspension bolts with slow controlled force. No radio, no television, just metal sounds. Most people in Spokane who knew Brady only knew pieces of him. The quiet mechanic, the guy with the old truck, the husband whose wife looked unhappy every time she stood beside him. Nobody asked many questions because Brady never volunteered answers. At 7:15, he locked the garage for 15 minutes and walked across the street to Molly's Diner. The waitress, Gina, already had his coffee ready. "Morning, Brady." "Morning." She set down eggs, wheat toast, and bacon without asking for his order. Same meal for nearly 8 years. Truckers sat near the windows drinking coffee from thick, white mugs. A snowplow driver watched weather reports on the mounted television above the counter. Country music hummed softly through old speakers. Brady ate quietly while reading invoices from a leather folder. Halfway through breakfast, his phone buzzed. Vanessa. He answered immediately. "You coming home tonight?" she asked. Her voice sounded distracted. Loud music behind her. Brady looked toward the diner window. Snow clouds rolled low over downtown Spokane. "I should be," he said. "Depends how long the Camaro takes." A pause. "Well, don't stay too late. Megan and Tyler are coming over tomorrow." "All right." Another pause. Then she sighed lightly. "You smell like chemicals every night lately." Brady stared at the steam lifting from his coffee. "I own a garage." "I know," she muttered. "I'm just saying." The call ended. No goodbye. Gina walked past carrying a tray of pancakes and glanced at Brady carefully. People noticed more than they admitted. By 9 o'clock, the garage doors were fully open. Customers came and went through the morning. A roofing contractor picking up a work van, a college kid with brake problems, an older woman whose Buick overheated every winter. Brady treated all of them the same way. Calm voice, fair numbers, no pressure. That was why most customers trusted him. Around noon, snow began falling in thick, wet clumps outside the garage entrance. Brady wiped grease from his hands and checked his phone again. No messages from Vanessa, but Instagram notifications kept appearing under her name. He normally ignored social media. Vanessa cared about it enough for both of them. Still, one thumbnail caught his attention. The Davenport Grand Hotel rooftop bar. Wine glasses, city lights, a group photo. Vanessa stood near the center in a black dress Brady had never seen before. And beside her stood a tall man in a charcoal coat with one arm resting behind her back. Logan Pierce. Brady recognized him immediately. Everybody in Spokane's real estate scene knew Logan Pierce. Billboards, luxury condo ads, aggressive commercials during Seahawks games. Move up in life. That was Logan's slogan. Brady locked the phone screen without reacting. Then he returned to work. But his movements slowed slightly after that. Not enough for customers to notice. Enough for him to notice. At 3 in the afternoon, Vanessa finally texted him. Client dinner tonight. Don't wait up. No heart emoji. No explanation. Brady looked at the message for several seconds before setting the phone face down on the workbench. Then he walked to the back of the garage, past the tool cabinets, past the paint booth, toward a gray steel door hidden beside industrial shelving. He unlocked it with a separate key. Inside sat a narrow office with no windows. Clean desk, locked filing cabinets, security monitors glowing softly against the dim room. 8 camera feeds covered the property. Front entrance, driveway, garage floor, storage area, side gate, back alley. Brady watched them all without expression. Most people thought security cameras existed because mechanics worried about theft. That was only half true. Brady believed people revealed themselves when they thought nobody was paying attention. At 6:40 p.m., he finally drove home through slushy streets. The Henderson house sat in a quiet neighborhood east of Manito Park. Brick exterior, detached garage, warm porch lights glowing against fresh snow. Vanessa's white Audi SUV was already in the driveway. Inside the house smelled faintly like expensive perfume and candle wax. Not dinner, no food cooking. Brady hung his jacket near the door. Vanessa sat at the kitchen island scrolling her phone. She barely looked up. You're late. Camaro took longer. You always say that. Brady opened the refrigerator quietly. Leftover pasta, bottle of orange juice, takeout containers from someplace downtown he hadn't been invited to. Vanessa finally glanced toward him. You could at least change before touching everything. Brady looked down at the oil stain near his sleeve. All right. Her eyes returned immediately to her phone. The kitchen lights reflected across the marble countertops she had insisted on remodeling 2 years earlier. Brady had paid for those countertops in cash. Vanessa never mentioned that part when friends visited. Upstairs, Brady showered slowly. Hot water beat against sore muscles while he stared at the tile wall in silence. He remembered when Vanessa used to wait awake for him after work. That version of her felt years away now. By 10:30, the house had gone quiet. Brady walked downstairs for water. As he passed the hallway, he noticed light under the bathroom door. Vanessa, inside, talking softly. He heard laughter, then silence. Brady stopped moving, not because he wanted confrontation, because patterns mattered. A few seconds later, the bathroom door cracked open slightly. Vanessa stepped out, still holding her phone. She froze when she saw him. "Jesus, Brady, you scared me." "Sorry." She quickly turned the screen downward against her leg, but not before Brady saw the name glowing across the display. Logan. Vanessa slipped the phone into her sweatshirt pocket. "You're acting weird lately," she said defensively. Brady said nothing. She walked past him toward the stairs. Halfway up, she stopped. "You know," she muttered without turning around, "not everybody wants to spend their whole life inside a garage." Then she disappeared upstairs. Brady remained standing in the dark hallway. The refrigerator hummed softly behind him. Snow tapped against the kitchen windows. A long minute passed before he finally walked outside. The cold air hit hard. He crossed the driveway toward the detached garage behind the house. Inside, only one small overhead light turned on. The room looked ordinary. Tool chests, shelving, storage bins, but mounted high in the corner, almost impossible to notice unless someone searched carefully. A tiny security camera blinked once in red. Brady stared at it, then at the locked steel cabinet beneath the workbench. Very slowly, he folded his arms, and for the first time, he began thinking about how much damage a careless man could do once he believed he was untouchable. The first lie was small enough to ignore. That was how these things usually began. Not with lipstick on collars, not with dramatic midnight confessions, just little details that stopped lining up correctly. Brady Henderson understood machines because machines followed rules. When something failed inside an engine, there was always a reason. Pressure, heat, friction, neglect. People were harder. On Thursday morning, Vanessa told him she had another client dinner downtown. She said it casually while standing in front of the bathroom mirror fastening silver earrings. "Probably won't be home until late," she said. "Megan's bringing investors from Coeur d'Alene." Brady sat at the edge of the bed pulling on work boots. "What restaurant?" "Some steakhouse." She answered too quickly. Brady nodded once. No argument, no suspicion in his voice. That seemed to relax her. By 6:15 a.m. Brady was already inside Henderson Restoration and auto-checking parts deliveries while wet snow drifted sideways outside the garage doors. The day moved hard and fast. A transmission rebuild on a Silverado, a brake line replacement, phone calls, invoices, oil-stained gloves piling near the sink. But somewhere behind the rhythm of work, Vanessa's answer stayed lodged in his head. Some steakhouse. At noon, Brady opened the business credit account on his office computer. Vanessa rarely noticed how carefully he tracked numbers. The charge appeared immediately. The Palm Court Grill, $218.47. Brady leaned back slowly in his chair. The Palm Court Grill was not a steakhouse. It was a rooftop seafood restaurant inside the Centennial Hotel downtown. Expensive. Reservation only on weekends. He clicked the receipt details. 2 entrees, wine, dessert, dinner for 2. Brady stared at the screen for several seconds before closing the tab. Then he returned to work. Outside Spokane, traffic crawled through slush under gray skies. Inside air compressors hissed while impact wrenches rattled against steel. Brady's face never changed, but he started paying closer attention. That evening, he left work earlier than usual. Not because he planned to confront Vanessa, because he wanted information before emotion. At 7:42 p.m., Brady parked half a block from the Centennial Hotel beneath a row of frozen maple trees. Snowmelt dripped from parking meters. The hotel entrance glowed gold against the dark street. He stayed inside the truck with the heater low. 10 minutes later, Vanessa emerged through the revolving doors, laughing. Her black coat hung open despite the cold. Beside her walked Logan Pierce, tall, expensive haircut, dark wool overcoat, one hand resting casually in his pocket. The kind of man who practiced confidence in mirrors. Logan leaned toward Vanessa as they reached the valet stand. She touched his arm while laughing at something Brady could not hear. Not nervous laughter, comfortable laughter, the kind built over time. Brady watched quietly from across the street. No shaking hands, no sudden rage, just observation. Logan opened the passenger door of a black Cadillac Escalade. Vanessa climbed inside without hesitation. Then they drove away together into the Spokane night. Brady remained parked there another full minute. The windshield fogged lightly from his breathing. Finally, he shifted the truck into gear and drove home alone. The house felt colder lately, not physically, emotionally. Vanessa returned around 11:30. Brady sat at the kitchen table reviewing supplier invoices when she walked in. "You're still awake?" she asked. "Had paperwork." She dropped her purse onto the counter and avoided eye contact. "How was the steakhouse?" The question landed softly. Too softly. Vanessa paused, then recovered quickly. "Good. What did you order?" A tiny hesitation. "Filet." Brady nodded once. No reaction, but he had already seen the seafood receipt. Vanessa opened the refrigerator too fast. "You checking up on me now?" "No." "You're acting strange lately." Brady closed the folder in front of him. "You seem busy lately." "I'm trying to actually build something with my life," she snapped. "Not everybody wants to spend every day buried inside an oil pit." The kitchen went quiet after that, only the refrigerator humming. Vanessa grabbed bottled water and disappeared upstairs without another word. Brady stayed seated long after she left. Then he calmly reopened the invoice folder. But underneath the papers sat something else now. A legal-size yellow notepad. At the top, Brady had written a date. Underneath it, Palm Court Grill. 2 dinners, Escalade Black, 11:32, return home. Nothing emotional, only facts. Because facts held up under pressure. Around midnight, Brady walked outside toward the detached garage behind the house. The motion lights flickered on automatically. Cold air cut through his jacket. Inside the garage, everything remained exactly where he left it. Organized, controlled, safe. Brady walked directly toward the small office hidden behind storage shelving. The monitors glowed softly inside the dark room. He rewound driveway footage from earlier that evening. At 6:58 p.m., Vanessa exited the house wearing heels she claimed hurt her feet too badly to use anymore. At 7:01, a black Escalade stopped briefly near the curb. Not in the driveway, careful. Logan never stepped out. Vanessa climbed in quickly. Then they drove away. Brady saved the clip onto a backup drive. Timestamp included. He labeled the folder only with the date. No names, no accusations, just records. His father used to say anger made people sloppy. Brady never forgot that lesson, especially after what happened to his mother. Years ago, Brady watched his father lose nearly everything after trusting the wrong business partner. No contracts, handshake agreements, verbal promises. By the time lawyers became involved, the money was already gone. Brady remembered sitting beside his mother at age 14 while she cried quietly over unpaid mortgage notices. That memory stayed permanent. Since then, Brady documented everything: receipts, titles, contracts, security footage. Not because he was paranoid, because preparation prevented panic. At 12:47 a.m., another notification appeared on Vanessa's Instagram account. Brady almost ignored it. Then curiosity won. The post came from Megan Holloway, one of Vanessa's realtor friends. A blurry group photo inside a rooftop bar. Wine glasses raised toward the camera. Vanessa stood beside Logan again. This time closer. Too close. And underneath the image, Logan himself had commented, "Good people. Good energy." Brady studied the photo carefully. In the reflection behind the group, he could see part of Logan's watch. Rolex Submariner. Real, not fake. Brady knew watches because wealthy restoration clients talked about them constantly. Men like Logan spent money to look successful even when debt followed them quietly. Brady clicked through Logan Pierce's profile. Luxury condos, boat rentals, golf courses, private whiskey tastings, photos designed to announce importance. Then Brady noticed something else. In 3 separate pictures, Logan wore the same navy overcoat. Expensive men usually rotated wardrobes constantly. Interesting. Brady closed the app. Something about Logan felt overbuilt, like a showroom car, hiding engine problems beneath polished paint. At 8 the next morning, Brady arrived at the garage before sunrise again. Coffee steamed beside him while he reviewed work orders. Outside Spokane, traffic thickened under freezing rain. At 9:14, a black Escalade rolled slowly past Henderson Restoration and Auto. Brady noticed immediately. The SUV continued another 50 yards before stopping near the curb. Logan Pierce stepped out, wearing dark sunglasses despite the weather. He glanced toward the garage sign, then toward Brady inside. For several seconds, neither man moved. Finally, Logan smiled faintly, not friendly, assessing. Then he climbed back into the Escalade and drove away. Brady watched the taillights disappear through wet morning traffic. Behind him, compressed air hissed from the shop line. The coffee beside his hand had gone cold. Very slowly, Brady walked toward the back office again, toward the security monitors, toward the filing cabinet, toward the quiet place where he stored things other people forgot mattered until it was too late. On the monitor above the driveway camera, Brady froze the image of Logan's SUV. Then he zoomed in carefully until the license plate became clear. And for the first time since Vanessa started lying, Brady began creating a separate folder under Logan Pierce's name. Brady Henderson built the garage 3 years before he married Vanessa. Most people assumed it had grown slowly over time, piece by piece, like every other small mechanic shop in Spokane. That was not true. Brady designed every inch of it before the concrete foundation was ever poured. The layout, the wiring, the drainage system, the reinforced walls, even the camera placements hidden behind industrial light casings. Nothing inside Henderson Restoration and Auto existed by accident. At 6:10 on Saturday morning, Brady stood alone near the back workbench while snow slid quietly off the roof outside. The garage was closed for the weekend. A faded blue Mustang rested under plastic sheeting near the hydraulic lift. Tool cabinets lined the walls in perfect rows. Fluorescent lights reflected softly across polished concrete floors. The place looked ordinary to strangers. That was intentional. Brady walked toward the rear storage section, carrying a black coffee mug in one hand. Near the shelving units sat a heavy industrial air compressor bolted to the wall. He crouched beside it, reached underneath, pressed two hidden steel latches. A section of the wall unlocked with a quiet metallic click. Behind it sat a narrow, reinforced door painted the exact same gray as the concrete walls around it. No handle visible from a distance. No keypad outside. Brady entered a 6-digit code from memory. The lock disengaged. Inside waited a room no customer had ever seen. Small, windowless, climate-controlled. Metal filing cabinets stood against one wall beside backup battery systems and server racks blinking faint green lights. A fireproof safe sat bolted into concrete beneath a mounted monitor displaying live security feeds from across the property. Brady closed the door quietly behind him. Then he set his coffee beside the desk and opened the safe. Folders stacked inside with white labels. Property, business, tax, client, contracts, insurance, personal. Brady removed 3 folders carefully and placed them across the desk. The first contained the original property deed for both the garage and the Henderson house. Purchase date, March 11th, 2013. Years before Vanessa. The second folder contained building permits, electrical inspection approvals, contractor invoices, and land surveys. Everything in Brady's name alone. The third folder was thinner. Cream-colored legal paper clipped neatly together. Prenuptial addendum. Brady stared at the document for several long seconds. Vanessa had signed it during the refinance process after their second year of marriage. Back then, she barely skimmed paperwork before signing. She trusted Brady completely in those days. Or maybe she simply never imagined money would eventually matter more to her than loyalty. Outside the hidden room, wind rattled softly against the garage doors. Brady sat down slowly in the office chair. Then he opened another cabinet containing hard drives labeled by month and year. Security archives. Every camera feed from the property automatically backed up twice. One local, one remote. Again, intentional. Years ago, Brady learned how fast people changed once greed entered a room. His father learned that lesson too late. Back in 1998, Frank Henderson co-owned a machine shop outside Yakima with a longtime friend named Dennis Corbett. No formal contracts, no protected ownership percentages, just trust between men who drank beer together for 20 years. Then Dennis quietly refinanced company equipment behind Frank's back. By the time lawyers untangled the mess, the business collapsed under debt. Neither of them could fully escape. Brady still remembered the day sheriff deputies taped foreclosure notices onto their front door. His mother crying in the kitchen. His father sitting silently at the table staring at unpaid invoices. That silence changed Brady permanently. He stopped believing preparation meant paranoia. Preparation meant survival. At 7:02 a.m., Brady inserted one of the hard drives into the desk computer. The footage from the previous week loaded across the screen. Vanessa entering the driveway. Leaving. Logan's Escalade near the curb. Timestamps. Dates. Patterns. Brady watched the clips without visible emotion, not because it did not hurt, because pain became dangerous when mixed with impulsive decisions. A loud mechanic usually lost. A patient one found the loose bolt first. The office monitor suddenly chimed softly. Motion alert, front driveway camera. Brady switched screens immediately. A silver UV rolled slowly past the garage entrance outside. Vanessa. Passenger side occupied. Logan. They did not stop, but Logan turned his head toward the building while passing, studying it. Brady noticed that immediately. The garage interested him. That mattered. Brady leaned back slightly in the chair. Most people saw the garage as a repair shop because Brady wanted them to. What they never understood was how much money moved quietly through restoration work, especially rare American muscle cars, especially private collectors. Brady rarely advertised those jobs publicly. Wealthy clients preferred discretion. 3 years earlier, Brady restored a 1965 Corvette Stingray for a retired Microsoft executive from Bellevue. The final payment alone had been larger than most mechanics earned in 2 years. Another client shipped a rusted Dodge Charger from Arizona directly to Spokane because someone in Seattle recommended Brady by name. He never bragged about any of it. That confused people. Men like Logan believed wealth needed witnesses. Brady believed real money stayed quiet. At noon, Brady left the hidden room and walked through the garage, inspecting workstations. Everything remained orderly. The old snap-on toolbox beside the paint booth still carried scratches from his father's shop decades ago. The welding table near the rear wall held fresh steel panels waiting for fabrication work Monday morning. Then Brady stopped near the largest object in the garage, a long shape hidden completely beneath a gray protective cover. Even under the fabric, the silhouette looked powerful, low, wide, aggressive. Brady rested one hand lightly against the covered roofline. Years of work beneath that cover. Years. Most people entering the garage never paid attention to it. Vanessa certainly never did. To her, the garage represented embarrassment, grease, noise, working-class failure. She once told a friend at dinner that Brady still acted like a guy trying to survive the 1990s. Brady overheard it by accident. He never mentioned it afterward. But he remembered. He remembered everything. Late that afternoon, Vanessa finally came home. Brady heard her heels crossing the front porch before the kitchen door opened. She carried shopping bags from Nordstrom and Louis Vuitton. Snowflakes melted against her black wool coat. "You're here all day again?" she asked, after spotting Brady at the kitchen counter. "Mostly." She placed the bags down carelessly. "You know, Megan and Tyler just bought a condo overlooking Riverfront Park?" Brady nodded once. "Nice area. They're upgrading their lives." Brady poured fresh coffee into a mug. Vanessa watched him for a moment, then sighed. "You ever think maybe we outgrew this place?" Brady looked toward the backyard window, toward the detached garage standing silent behind falling snow. "No," he answered calmly. Vanessa crossed her arms. "You really want to spend the rest of your life buried in that building?" Brady took a slow sip of coffee. "That building paid for this house." She rolled her eyes immediately. "God, Brady, it's always the garage." He said nothing. Vanessa grabbed her bags again and headed upstairs. Halfway up the staircase, her phone buzzed loudly. She smiled at the screen before disappearing down the hallway. Brady remained motionless in the kitchen. A long silence settled through the house afterward. Then very slowly, Brady set the coffee mug down, walked outside, crossed the frozen driveway again, and returned to the garage. Inside, the overhead lights reflected softly across the gray vehicle cover near the center bay. Brady stared at it for several seconds. Then he reached down carefully and pulled the cover back just enough to expose the front quarter panel beneath. Dark metallic blue paint gleamed under the lights. Flawless, expensive, dangerous in the wrong hands. Brady covered it again immediately. Then he looked toward the security camera mounted high above the garage door. And for the first time, he began wondering how long it would take before Logan Pierce decided to walk inside and touch something that did not belong to him. Vanessa Henderson started speaking differently about the house sometime in February. Not emotionally, strategically. Brady noticed that first. People revealed their intentions through language long before actions caught up. The house stopped being home. It became property, asset, opportunity. On Monday evening, Brady came home after 11 hours at the garage to find printed real estate brochures spread across the kitchen island. Luxury condos downtown, riverfront apartments, modern townhomes near Kendall Yards, floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop lounges, fitness centers. Vanessa stood beside the counter, drinking white wine from a stemless glass. "You ever think about downsizing?" she asked casually. Brady removed his gloves slowly. "We already have more space than we use." "That's not what I mean." He looked at the brochures without touching them. The prices sat between $900,000 and $1.4 million. Vanessa stepped closer. "We could sell this place while the market's still good." Brady loosened the collar of his work jacket. "This place is paid off. That's exactly why we should sell it." Her tone sharpened slightly. Brady walked to the refrigerator and grabbed bottled water. Vanessa followed him with her eyes. "You know how much equity we're sitting on?" Brady unscrewed the cap calmly. "I know exactly how much." She crossed her arms. "We could actually live better, Brady." He took a sip. "What's wrong with how we live now?" Vanessa laughed softly. "Not kindly. Seriously?" She gestured vaguely toward the house. "The furniture's outdated. The kitchen's already aging. You drive a truck that looks like it survived a flood. It runs fine." "That's not the point." Brady stayed quiet. That always frustrated her more. Vanessa stepped closer to the counter. "People move forward in life. They upgrade." Brady looked through the window toward the detached garage outside. Snow lined the roof edges under pale porch lights. "That garage built everything we have," he said quietly. Vanessa rolled her eyes immediately. "There it is again." Brady said nothing else. The conversation died there. But not really, because afterward, Vanessa started moving through the house differently. Like someone mentally rearranging ownership. 2 days later, Brady stayed late at Henderson Restoration and Auto Finishing fabrication work on a custom exhaust manifold. At 8:16 p.m., one of the hidden driveway cameras at the house triggered a motion alert on his phone. Brady wiped grease from his hands and opened the live feed. A black Cadillac Escalade sat in the driveway. Logan Pierce stepped out first. Long charcoal coat, expensive leather shoes unsuited for snow. Vanessa opened the front door smiling before he even reached the porch. Brady watched silently from inside the garage office downtown. Logan entered the house like he already belonged there. No hesitation, no caution. Brady switched between camera feeds carefully. Living room, kitchen, front hallway, muted audio captured fragments of conversation through the house microphones. Nice layout. And could open this wall, property value would jump. Brady leaned back slowly in his chair. Then the two of them moved toward the backyard, toward the detached garage. The screen changed angles as they crossed the snow-covered driveway. Vanessa unlocked the garage side door. Logan stepped inside first. Brady's eyes narrowed slightly. Not anger. Calculation. Inside the garage, Logan looked around with visible disappointment. The overhead lights reflected across organized tool cabinets and polished concrete floors. To Brady, the garage looked clean and professional. To Logan, it looked ordinary. That difference mattered. Logan walked slowly through the center aisle. "What is all this stuff?" he asked. Vanessa shrugged. "He's obsessed with old cars." Logan laughed lightly. "Honestly, this whole place could become an incredible gym." He tapped one of the steel support beams with his knuckles. High ceilings. Good square footage. Vanessa smiled. "I told him that." Brady watched every second from downtown. The camera angle near the welding station captured Logan running his fingers across tool chests and workbenches like a man inspecting inherited property. Then Logan stopped near the large gray vehicle cover. The Shelby. Even hidden, the shape attracted attention. "What's under there?" Logan asked. Vanessa barely looked. "Some car project. He's had it forever." Logan grabbed the edge of the cover. Brady sat forward slightly in his chair, but Logan released it almost immediately. "Probably junk," he muttered. Vanessa laughed. Brady watched carefully. That laugh bothered him more than the affair itself. Not because it sounded cruel, because it sounded dismissive. As if years of Brady's work meant nothing now. Logan continued walking around the garage. "You know," he said casually, "this property's worth way more redeveloped." Vanessa leaned against the workbench. "That's what I keep telling him. You could tear this whole structure down. Build something modern." Brady stared at the monitor without blinking. The garage floor remained spotless beneath Logan's expensive shoes. The same floor Brady poured himself over 14-hour days. The same building Brady financed without loans. The same place Vanessa once brought him sandwiches during construction because she believed in him back then. Funny how memory changed depending on who benefited from it. Logan suddenly pointed toward the old snap-on toolbox beside the wall. "Does he seriously still use that thing?" Vanessa smirked. "He refuses to throw anything away." Logan laughed harder. Brady recognized the toolbox immediately. His father's toolbox, still carrying weld burns from jobs completed decades ago. Brady's jaw tightened slightly, only slightly. Then Logan moved deeper into the garage toward the rear work area, toward the hidden wall concealing Brady's secure office. For the first time all evening, Brady's attention sharpened completely. Logan paused near the industrial compressor, studied the wall briefly, then lost interest. "Good." Vanessa checked her phone. "We should go." Logan nodded. But before leaving, he turned once more toward the Shelby beneath the gray cover. "You know what your husband's problem is?" Vanessa slipped on her coat. "He thinks working hard automatically makes you successful." Then they walked out together. The garage door shut behind them. Brady continued watching the empty room for another full minute. Silence returned slowly. Only the humming ventilation system remained. Finally, Brady closed the camera feed. He sat motionless inside his office downtown, one hand resting near the keyboard. Then he opened another program. Property valuation records, construction permits, business registrations, tax documents. Brady already knew every number by memory, but now he reviewed them again carefully. Not because he feared losing control, because Logan Pierce had begun acting like a man who believed Brady did not understand what he owned. That assumption could become useful. At 9:42 p.m., Brady drove home through freezing rain. The Escalade was gone by then. Vanessa sat on the couch, scrolling through luxury condo listings on her tablet. "You're late," she said without looking up. "Busy day." Brady removed his jacket slowly. Vanessa rotated the tablet toward him. "Look at this place. Modern downtown condo. Glass balcony overlooking Spokane Falls. Private parking garage. Monthly HOA fee alone larger than most mortgage payments." Brady glanced briefly. "Looks expensive." "It's an investment." He nodded once, then walked toward the kitchen sink. Vanessa looked irritated immediately. "You don't care about any of this, do you?" Brady rinsed grease from his hands carefully. "I care about real things." "What does that even mean?" He dried his hands with a towel. "It means debt. Dressed up as success is still debt." Vanessa scoffed loudly. "That's exactly why people like Logan move ahead and people like you stay stuck." The room went quiet after that. Very quiet. Brady folded the towel neatly beside the sink. Then he looked toward her for the first time all evening. Not angry, just steady. "Logan seems very interested in this property," Brady said calmly. Vanessa froze for half a second. Only half. Then she recovered. "He understands investments." Brady nodded once. "I'm sure he does." He walked upstairs without another word. Behind him, Vanessa stared after him with growing irritation. But Brady already understood something important now. Logan Pierce was no longer satisfied being hidden. Men like Logan eventually mistook access for ownership. And ownership made people careless. Later that night, Brady sat alone inside the detached garage again. The overhead lights reflected softly across the gray Shelby cover. He walked toward the car, placed one hand against the smooth fabric. Then he looked up toward the security camera above the main garage entrance. Outside, snow fell steadily through the dark Spokane night. Inside, Brady quietly activated 2 additional cameras facing the center bay. And when he finally locked the garage before midnight, the small red recording lights blinked steadily in the darkness. Waiting. The car under the gray cover was worth more than the house. Vanessa never knew that. Logan Pierce would not have believed it, even if someone told him directly. That was the strange thing about real value. Most people missed it because they expected expensive things to announce themselves loudly. The 1967 Shelby GT500 did the opposite. It sat quietly in Brady Henderson's garage beneath faded gray fabric while people walked past it without interest. At 5:50 a.m. Wednesday morning, Brady unlocked the garage before sunrise and stood silently beside the covered car. Outside, Spokane streets remained dark beneath freezing fog. Inside, fluorescent lights reflected softly against polished concrete floors. Brady pulled the cover back carefully. Dark, Highland green paint gleamed beneath the lights. Perfect. Months earlier, the Shelby arrived from Seattle barely recognizable. Rusted frame rails, damaged quarter panels, missing transmission, interior destroyed by moisture. Most shops would have called it unsalvageable. Brady rebuilt it piece by piece. Original 4, 2.8 Cobra jet engine, correct factory gauges, period authentic steering wheel, every bolt cataloged, every weld measured, 3 years of work, thousands of hours. And hidden beneath the restoration sat something else most people would never understand: reputation. In Brady's world, reputation mattered more than advertising. Wealthy collectors shared names quietly. A recommendation from the right client could feed a restoration shop for years. Brady opened a locked cabinet near the workbench and removed a thick leather binder labeled Callahan Shelby G 500. Inside sat contracts, insurance appraisals, restoration, documentation, and payment schedules. Final appraised value, $342,000. Brady closed the binder carefully. Then he checked the delivery schedule clipped inside the folder. Richard Callahan would arrive from Seattle in 10 days. Everything needed to stay untouched until then. That thought lingered longer than usual now, because Logan Pierce had already started treating the garage like conquered territory. At 8:20 a.m., Brady's phone buzzed. Vanessa. He answered while adjusting timing components beneath the Shelby hood. "You busy?" she asked. "Yes." A pause. "Well, Logan's coming by later." Brady kept working. For what? He knows a contractor who renovates garages. Brady stopped tightening the wrench. Why? Vanessa sighed immediately. "Brady, don't start." I asked why. "Because we're exploring options." "We?" Brady looked slowly around the garage. Steel beams, tool cabinets, hydraulic lift, his father's toolbox, the building he financed entirely himself. "We're not renovating anything," he said calmly. Vanessa's tone hardened. "You don't get to make every decision alone." Brady wiped his hands with a shop towel. "It's my property." Silence. Then Vanessa laughed once under her breath. "That attitude's exactly why nobody can talk to you." The call disconnected. Brady stared at the phone for several seconds before setting it down beside the workbench. Then he quietly walked toward the hidden office in the back. Inside, he reviewed all active camera feeds, storage angles, driveway angles, interior audio levels. He adjusted 2 microphones slightly higher near the center bay. Then he opened another software window. Insurance policy update. Additional coverage request. Shelby GT 500 temporary increased protection during final restoration phase. Brady submitted the request electronically without hesitation. Prepared people survived expensive mistakes. At noon, the garage office phone rang. Henderson Restoration. A deep, older voice answered. "Brady, this is Richard Callahan." Brady straightened slightly. "Morning. Richard, how's my Shelby looking?" Brady glanced toward the covered car. "Ready for final polish." A satisfied chuckle came through the line. "You still the best damn restoration man in the Northwest." Brady ignored compliments the same way he ignored insults. "When are you arriving next Friday?" "Bringing the trailer down personally." Brady nodded, though Callahan could not see it. "She'll be ready?" Another pause. Then Richard lowered his voice slightly. "You still keeping things quiet over there?" Brady understood immediately. Collectors preferred discretion, especially wealthy ones. Always. Good man. The call ended. Brady returned the receiver slowly to its cradle. Then he looked through the office glass toward the garage floor. Most people saw dirty work inside places like this. Very few recognized craftsmanship. That ignorance protected Brady more than money ever could. At 4:37 p.m., another driveway motion alert appeared. Brady opened the camera feed. Logan Pierce again, this time driving a silver Mercedes SUV instead of the Escalade. Interesting. Temporary vehicle, leased repair issue. Brady filed the observation away automatically. Vanessa exited the house wearing sunglasses despite the cloudy afternoon. They walked together toward the detached garage. Brady remained inside the hidden office at the shop downtown, watching remotely. Logan entered first again. Too comfortable now. He circled the Shelby immediately. Still got the mystery car covered up, he said. Vanessa leaned against the wall, scrolling her phone. It's probably another midlife crisis project. Logan smirked. You know what this place really needs? He spread his arms toward the garage. Glass doors, epoxy lighting, modern finish. Vanessa nodded. Exactly. Logan walked closer toward the Shelby. Brady watched carefully, very carefully. Logan crouched beside the rear quarter panel. Old Mustangs aren't even worth that much anymore. Not a Mustang, Brady thought quietly. Logan reached out casually and dragged 2 fingers across the paint beneath the cover line. A tiny scraping sound followed, small but real. Brady's eyes narrowed immediately. Logan stood again without noticing. Vanessa barely looked up from her phone. You think Brady would actually fight for this place? Logan asked. Vanessa laughed softly. He avoids conflict like it's cancer. Brady continued watching the monitor in silence. That answer interested him more than the scratch, because Vanessa truly believed it. People confuse patience with weakness constantly, especially loud people. Logan walked toward the workbench near the wall, picked up a torque wrench carelessly. Guy's got decent tools. I'll give him that. Vanessa smiled faintly. He'd probably marry this garage if he could. Logan laughed. Then he lowered the torque wrench back onto the bench incorrectly. Not enough to damage it, enough to show disrespect. Small behaviors revealed character faster than speeches. Eventually they left again. The garage door shut. Silence returned. Brady replayed the footage twice. Then he zoomed in carefully on the Shelby quarter panel. There it was, a thin mark barely visible beneath the lights. Most people would miss it. Brady did not. He stood from the office chair immediately, grabbed his keys, and drove home. 40 minutes later, Brady entered the detached garage alone. The air smelled cold and metallic. He pulled the gray cover fully off the Shelby. The car gleamed beneath overhead lights like dark liquid glass. Then Brady walked slowly toward the passenger side rear quarter panel. His jaw tightened slightly. The scratch was small, half an inch at most, but deep enough to require correction. Brady stared at it silently, not emotional, focused. Then he crouched beside the panel and inspected the paint under a handheld light. Fresh, recent. His phone buzzed again. Vanessa, he answered. What she asked immediately. You sound weird. Brady remained crouched beside the Shelby. Did Logan touch the car in a pause? Then annoyance. Oh my God. Brady, it's just a car. Brady closed his eyes briefly. It's not just a car. Vanessa scoffed. You care more about that garage than your marriage. Brady stood slowly. The overhead lights reflected across the Shelby's flawless body, except for the thin, damaged line near the rear panel. Outside snow tapped softly against the roof. Inside, Brady's voice stayed calm. Don't bring him into my garage again. Vanessa's silence lasted longer this time. Then she answered coldly. Maybe you should think about finding somewhere else to stay for a while. Brady looked around the garage. At the walls he built himself, at the floor he poured himself, at the hidden office concealed behind steel and concrete, at the Shelby worth more than Logan Pierce probably realized. Then Brady replied quietly, "This house isn't going anywhere." He ended the call first. For several seconds, the garage remained completely silent. Then Brady walked toward the security monitor mounted near the office wall. He added another backup recording system, then another remote upload layer. The tiny red recording lights blinked steadily across the garage. Watching. Waiting. And for the first time since Logan Pierce entered his life, Brady began preparing for the possibility that the next mistake would not be small. Claire Whitmore's office overlooked Riverside Avenue from the 8th floor of a dark glass building downtown. The law firm name sat discreetly beside the elevator lobby, Whitmore and Kane, LLP. No gold lettering, no oversized branding, just quiet confidence. Brady Henderson arrived 10 minutes early Friday morning, carrying a black leather document case under one arm. Outside Spokane, traffic crawled through freezing rain. Inside the law office smelled faintly like coffee paper and polished wood. The receptionist greeted him softly. "Mr. Henderson, Ms. Whitmore is ready for you." Claire Whitmore stood when Brady entered her office. She looked close to 50. Sharp gray suit, silver-framed glasses, calm eyes that missed very little. She shook Brady's hand once. "Good to finally meet you in person." Brady nodded. "Appreciate your time." Claire motioned toward the chair opposite her desk. "Sit." The office windows overlooked the Spokane River beneath low winter clouds. Framed legal certificates lined the walls beside shelves filled with property, law binders, and litigation volumes. Brady placed the document case carefully on the desk. Claire noticed that immediately. "You came organized," she said. "I try to. That usually means I can help." Brady opened the case. Folders stacked neatly inside. Property deeds, business registrations, insurance records, security logs, prenuptial documents. Claire's expression changed slightly as Brady arranged everything in front of her. Not surprised, impressed. Most clients arrived emotional. Brady arrived prepared. That mattered to attorneys. Claire adjusted her glasses and began reading. The room stayed mostly silent for 20 minutes, except for turning pages and occasional rain against the windows. Finally, Claire leaned back slightly. "When did the affair start?" Brady answered without hesitation. "Probably months before I confirmed it." "You have proof?" "Yes." "Physical video, financial records, location patterns." Claire nodded slowly. "And your goal here?" Brady looked toward the river outside the office windows before answering. "I don't want drama." That response seemed genuine enough to interest her. Most people say that Claire replied calmly. Then they want blood 5 minutes later. Brady folded his hands together. "I want protection. Legal protection." Claire studied him carefully. "Not revenge. No." That answer came too quickly to fake. Claire opened the property deed folder again. "Well," she said, "you're already in a strong position." She tapped the first document. "You purchased the home before marriage." Another tap. "The garage property also predates the marriage." Another. "The business remains solely registered under Henderson Restoration and Auto LLC." Brady nodded once. Claire continued reading. Then she stopped at the prenup addendum. A faint smile touched the corner of her mouth. "This," she said quietly, "is extremely important." Brady remained silent. Claire adjusted the papers neatly. "Your wife signed acknowledgement during the refinance process. Full asset separation regarding all premarital property, business interests, land ownership, and inherited funds. She looked directly at Brady. Did she actually read any of this? I don't think so. Claire gave a small, humorless laugh. That tends to happen. She continued, reviewing the language carefully. Then she closed the folder completely. Legally speaking, the garage is yours. The land is yours. Most of the financial structure is protected. Brady leaned back slightly for the first time since entering the office. Not relief. Confirmation. Claire noticed that too. You already suspected this. Yes. But you wanted certainty. Yes. Outside, a siren echoed faintly through downtown traffic. Claire folded her hands together. Now tell me about Logan Pierce. Brady slid another folder across the desk. Inside sat printed screenshots, vehicle registrations, property records, and timestamps from security footage. Claire raised one eyebrow. You investigated him. I documented him. Difference. Yes. Claire opened the folder. Photographs of Logan's Escalade outside the house. Dates. Times. Restaurant receipts. Camera stills. One printed image showed Logan inside Brady's garage, standing near the Shelby under its gray cover. Claire studied that photo longer than the others. He entered your property without permission. Vanessa invited him. Did you? No. Claire nodded slowly. Good distinction. She continued flipping pages, then stopped suddenly at another document. What's this insurance appraisal? Claire read the number twice. $342,000. Her eyes lifted toward Brady. The Shelby? Yes. And your wife doesn't know, no. Claire closed the folder carefully. Interesting. The office grew quiet again. Finally, Claire stood and walked toward the windows overlooking Riverside Avenue. When she spoke again, her voice sounded thoughtful. You know what ruins most divorce cases? Brady waited. Emotion, she answered herself. People panic. They yell, threaten, break things. Suddenly, the facts stop mattering because behavior becomes the story. She turned toward him again. You haven't done that. Brady looked down briefly at the desk. My father did. Claire waited. Brady rarely talked about family history, but something about the office felt controlled enough for honesty. He lost his business because he trusted the wrong people, Brady said quietly. Then he lost the rest because he got angry afterward. Claire listened without interruption. He thought yelling louder made him right. Brady continued. It didn't. Rain streaked slowly across the office windows. Claire returned to her desk and sat down again. Well, she said calmly, Logan Pierce strikes me as exactly the kind of man who believes volume equals leverage. Brady almost smiled. Almost. Claire opened a legal pad. Here's what we do next. For the next 40 minutes, she outlined strategy carefully. No confrontation, no threats, no emotional text messages, no changing locks, no physical escalation. Document everything. Continue recording activity on the property. Protect all financial accounts. And most importantly, do not interrupt people while they expose themselves, Claire said. Brady remembered the sentence immediately because it sounded exactly like something his father should have learned years earlier. Claire slid a business card across the desk. If Pierce threatens you directly, call me before you react. Brady took the card. If he damages property, call police first. Me second. What if Vanessa pushes harder about the house? Claire's voice stayed even. Let her. Brady frowned slightly. Claire continued. The more confident they become, the sloppier they'll get. Then she tapped the security folder again. You already understand this better than most clients. At 11:12 a.m., Brady left Whitmore and Kane carrying fewer uncertainties than when he arrived. Outside downtown Spokane looked cold and silver beneath winter rain. Traffic hissed across wet streets. Brady sat inside his truck for several seconds before starting the engine. Then his phone buzzed. Vanessa, he answered calmly. Where are you downtown? With who? Lawyer? Silence. Then irritation entered her voice immediately. Seriously, Brady? You asked me to leave my own house. That's not what I meant. Brady watched rain collect across the windshield. Then what did you mean? Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, she sighed sharply. You make everything difficult. Brady almost answered. Instead, he simply ended the call. That bothered Vanessa more than arguments ever did. 40 minutes later, Brady returned to Henderson Restoration and Auto. The garage stood quiet beneath gray skies. Inside, the Shelby remained untouched beneath its protective cover. Brady walked slowly through the building, checking locks and camera positions. Then he climbed a ladder near the rear support beam, mounted another compact camera higher above the center bay. Wider angle, better audio capture. He tested the feed from his phone afterward. Crystal clear. The garage door, the workbench, the Shelby, everything visible. Brady climbed down carefully. Outside, wind rattled softly against the metal siding. Inside, the tiny red recording light blinked once. Watching. Waiting. Brady stood beneath it, with both hands in his jacket pockets. Then he remembered something Claire Whitmore said before he left her office. People like Logan always believe intimidation works until the moment evidence enters the room. Brady looked toward the garage entrance, toward the same doorway Logan Pierce would almost certainly walk through again. And for the first time, Brady stopped wondering if that confrontation would happen. Now he was simply preparing for when. The Davenport Grand Hotel sat above downtown Spokane like it wanted people to notice it. Glass walls, warm gold lighting, valet attendants in black coats standing beside imported SUVs while winter wind pushed snow along the sidewalks. Vanessa loved places like that. Places where nobody smelled like engine oil. Friday evening, she spent nearly 40 minutes getting ready upstairs while Brady sat alone at the kitchen table reviewing invoices from the garage. He heard drawers opening, closet doors sliding, the soft hiss of hairspray. Vanessa finally appeared wearing a dark green dress Brady had never seen before. Not expensive enough for old money. Too expensive for someone pretending budgets mattered. She stopped near the staircase and checked her reflection in the hallway mirror. Brady never looked up immediately. That bothered her. You're really not going to ask where I'm going, she said. Brady signed another supplier receipt calmly. You usually tell me after you've already decided. Vanessa folded her arms. Logan invited me to dinner. Brady nodded once. No reaction. That annoyed her even more. You don't care. Brady finally looked toward her. You already made the decision. The room went quiet. Vanessa grabbed her coat harder than necessary. Sometimes I honestly think you stopped feeling anything years ago. Brady returned to the paperwork. Outside, snow tapped lightly against the windows. Inside, Vanessa waited several seconds for a fight that never came. Then she left. The front door closed sharply behind her. Brady sat motionless for another minute before setting his pen down. Then he opened the laptop beside him. Bank account notifications, business expenditures, shared financial alerts. At 7:14 p.m., a transaction appeared. Davenport Grand, pending authorization. Brady stared at the charge amount. $382. He leaned back slowly. Then another notification appeared underneath it. Corporate Business Visa Manual Entry attempted. Brady frowned immediately. That card belongs strictly to Henderson Restoration and Auto. Vanessa did not have authorization for manual withdrawals. He clicked the alert. The attempted transaction had failed. Reason verification mismatch. Brady's eyes narrowed slightly. Interesting. Very interesting. He stood immediately and walked toward the detached garage outside. Cold air rushed across the driveway as he unlocked the side entrance. Inside, the overhead lights flickered on, row by row. The Shelby remained beneath its gray cover near the center bay. Quiet, untouched. Brady walked directly toward the hidden office. Inside, he opened another laptop connected separately to business banking records. A second alert appeared this time. Home equity inquiry initiated. His jaw tightened slightly. The request originated from a downtown lending office. Someone had attempted to begin a home equity line against the house. Against his house. Brady clicked deeper into the application details. The listed marital asset estimate looked wildly inflated. Projected renovation capital, property restructuring, and near the bottom, applicant signature, Brady Henderson. The signature was wrong. Close enough to fool basic processing, not close enough to fool Brady. He stared at the screen silently while server fans hummed softly inside the office. Then he checked the timestamp. 6:03 p.m., less than 2 hours ago. Brady leaned back slowly in the chair. No anger yet. Only clarity. Because now this situation had crossed into something else entirely. Not betrayal, exposure. Outside the hidden office, the garage remained perfectly still. Brady opened a secure archive folder and began printing documents one by one. Property deed. Mortgage payoff confirmation. Business ownership filings. Insurance schedules. Camera timestamps. Everything organized neatly across the desk. At 8:21 p.m., one of the driveway cameras triggered. Brady switched screens instantly. Logan Pierce's Escalade pulled into the Davenport Grand Valet entrance. Vanessa stepped out beside him, smiling. The camera angle came from public traffic monitoring Brady legally accessed through a subscription security network tied to his business accounts. Useful system. One Logan would never expect a mechanic to understand. Brady zoomed in carefully. Logan handed keys to the valet with exaggerated confidence. Expensive watch visible beneath his coat sleeve. Too polished. Too practiced. Men drowning financially often performed wealth the loudest. Brady saved the still image. Then he opened another browser window. Pierce Urban Realty. Logan's company profile remained full of luxury branding and aggressive marketing slogans. But Brady looked deeper this time. Business filings, public liens, property transfers. And then he found something interesting. A pending civil dispute filed 6 months earlier involving a failed condo development partnership. Not criminal, but messy. Brady read quietly through the filing details. Disputed investor funds, delayed contractor payments, settlement pending. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Because suddenly Logan Pierce looked less like a powerful man and more like a dangerous one. There was a difference. At 9:04 p.m., Brady's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Henderson, male voice, professional. This is Northwest Federal Lending. We received a partial home equity application under your name earlier this evening and needed identity confirmation before processing. Brady's voice remained calm. I didn't submit one. A pause. I see. The representative's tone shifted immediately. Would you like us to flag the application for fraud review? Yes. We'll freeze all pending actions tied to the property until verification completes. Thank you. The call ended. Brady stared at the phone a moment longer. Then he carefully placed it beside the printed documents already covering the desk. Rain mixed with snow, outside now tapping steadily against the garage roof. Inside the hidden office, lights reflected across stacks of organized evidence. Brady thought about Vanessa at the Davenport Grand, about Logan smiling across expensive dinners while trying to leverage property he did not own, about the forged signature. The arrogance behind it bothered him most, not because it threatened him, because it revealed what Logan believed about him. Weak men got ignored. Quiet men got underestimated. And underestimated men had advantages. At 10:13 p.m., Brady drove downtown, not to confront anyone, just to observe. He parked across from the Davenport Grand beneath dim streetlights and watched the entrance through falling snow. Valets moved constantly between luxury vehicles. Couples laughed beneath heated awnings. The city glowed wet and gold around them. Then Brady saw Vanessa and Logan through the hotel windows inside the restaurant lounge. They sat close together near the glass overlooking downtown Spokane. Vanessa laughed at something Logan said. Logan leaned back confidently, holding a whiskey glass. Brady watched them for less than 30 seconds. That was enough. He noticed something else immediately. Logan kept checking his phone between conversations. Not relaxed behavior, distracted, nervous beneath the performance. Brady filed that away mentally too. Finally, he drove home. The house sat dark except for kitchen lights Vanessa forgot to turn off earlier. Inside, silence filled every room. Brady removed his jacket slowly and walked toward the kitchen counter. Then he stopped. A folder sat there. Luxury condo brochures again. But this time certain pages were marked with sticky notes. Potential sale values. Estimated equity. Projected split calculations. Brady flipped through them calmly. Near the back sat handwritten numbers in Logan's handwriting. Projected liquidation options. The word liquidation lingered in Brady's mind. Not home, not marriage. Liquidation, like dismantling assets. He closed the folder quietly, then walked outside toward the detached garage one more time. The night air smelled like ice and wet asphalt. Inside the garage, the Shelby waited silently beneath its cover. Brady walked around it slowly. Then he stopped near the rear workbench. Mounted above it, one of the new security cameras blinked steadily red, recording everything. He reached into his jacket pocket and removed the printed fraud alert from Northwest Federal Lending. Then he laid it carefully beside the property deed on the workbench. 2 documents, one proving ownership, one proving someone tried to steal against it. Brady stood there for a long time listening to snow hit the roof. Then very quietly, he spoke to the empty garage. They're getting reckless now. The camera recorded every word. And somewhere downtown, Logan Pierce still believed he was dealing with a quiet mechanic who did not understand what was happening around him. The rain started just after dark. Heavy Pacific Northwest rain. cold enough to sting, loud enough to drown distant traffic beneath the metal roofs of Spokane's industrial blocks. At 8:17 p.m., Brady Henderson stood alone inside Henderson Restoration and Auto, polishing the Shelby's passenger side quarter panel beneath bright overhead lights. The scratch Logan left 3 days earlier had almost disappeared now. Almost. Brady noticed imperfections other people missed. That was why wealthy collectors trusted him. Outside rain hammered the parking lot hard enough to bounce off the asphalt in silver bursts. Water streamed beneath the garage doors in thin lines. Inside the garage remained warm and bright. Controlled. Brady wore dark work jeans and a faded gray thermal shirt rolled at the sleeves. One hand moved steadily across the Shelby's paint with a polishing cloth, while soft jazz played quietly through an old radio near the office. Then headlights appeared through the rain. Brady noticed immediately. A black Escalade turned slowly into the driveway. He kept polishing. The engine shut off outside. A few seconds later, another vehicle stopped near the curb. Vanessa's Audi. Brady placed the polishing cloth down carefully. No surprise crossed his face. Only recognition. Because eventually, people stopped hiding once they convinced themselves they already won. The side garage door opened hard enough to rattle the hinges. Cold rain air swept inside. Logan Pierce entered first. Dark wool coat soaked at the shoulders. Expensive shoes splashed with rainwater. Jaw tight with artificial confidence. Vanessa stayed outside near her SUV beneath the falling rain. Watching, not stopping him. Brady noticed that too. Logan closed the door behind himself slowly. The garage suddenly felt quieter. Only rain on the roof. Only the ticking sound of cooling metal from nearby engines. Logan looked around the garage with visible disdain. "You always work this late." Brady folded the polishing cloth neatly beside the toolbox. "Sometimes." Logan stepped farther inside. "No wonder Vanessa's miserable." Brady said nothing. That seemed to irritate Logan immediately. Most men expected reactions, especially loud men. Logan removed wet gloves slowly and tossed them onto a workbench without asking. "You know, he said this whole situation would be easier if you stopped pretending." Brady leaned lightly against the Shelby. "Pretending what? That your marriage isn't already dead." Rain hammered harder outside. Logan walked closer. "You're dragging things out because you don't know when to quit." Brady looked directly at him for the first time. "You came here to say that." Logan smirked faintly. "No. I came because Vanessa's too nice to be honest with you." Brady's eyes shifted briefly toward the side door window. Vanessa still sat inside her Audi outside the garage, watching through rain-streaked glass. Not intervening, Logan spread his arms slightly. "She deserves better than this." Brady remained silent. Logan laughed once under his breath. "God, man, you really are exactly what she said." Brady's expression never changed. "What did she say?" "That you hide inside this garage because it's the only place you ever felt important." The words hung in the air, sharp, calculated. Brady calmly picked up another clean cloth from the workbench, then continued wiping the Shelby's hood. That response confused Logan. "You even listening to me?" "Yes." And Brady folded the cloth carefully. "You shouldn't be here." Logan smiled wider now. "There it is." He stepped closer toward the car. This whole quiet, tough guy routine. "Leave." The interruption came softly, steady. That caught Logan off guard more than yelling would have. Rainwater dripped from Logan's coat sleeves onto the polished concrete floor. He looked around the garage again, at the lifts, the tools, the covered shelves. Then his eyes settled on the Shelby. So this is the famous project car. Brady straightened slightly. Don't touch it. Logan ignored him. Of course he did. Men like Logan believed warnings only mattered if delivered loudly. He walked around the Shelby slowly while Brady watched in silence. She said, "You care about this thing more than your wife." Brady's voice stayed level. "Leave the garage." Logan stopped beside the passenger side quarter panel, the same area he scratched earlier. "You know what your problem is, Brady?" His hand rested lightly against the paint. "You think being patient makes you strong." Brady stared directly at Logan's hand. Rain thundered across the roof overhead. In the upper corner, near the rear support beam, the small red camera light blinked steadily, recording everything. Logan leaned slightly closer toward Brady now. But patience usually just means fear. Brady finally stepped away from the workbench. Not aggressive, controlled. "You need to take your hand off my car." Logan smirked. "There's some backbone." Outside, Vanessa shifted nervously inside the Audi. Brady noticed movement through the rain-covered windows. She looked uncomfortable now. Good. Because something inside the garage had started changing. Logan no longer sounded confident. He sounded performative, like a man acting for an audience. "You know what's funny?" Logan continued. "Vanessa said you'd never stand up for yourself." Brady's eyes remained fixed on him. "She shouldn't talk about private things with you." Logan laughed loudly. "Private, buddy? There's nothing private left about your marriage." Then Logan did something careless. Very careless. He slapped one hand flat against the Shelby's hood. Hard. The sound cracked sharply through the garage. Brady moved immediately. Not violently, just fast enough to close the distance between them. "Take your hand off the car." The words landed colder this time. Logan stepped forward too, chest slightly puffed, trying to dominate space. "You gonna make me?" Brady could smell whiskey now beneath the rainwater, an expensive cologne. Outside, lightning flashed faintly through the storm clouds. The garage lights flickered once. Logan lowered his voice. "Here's what's gonna happen. Vanessa's done with this life. Done with this dump. Done with pretending you're enough." Brady said nothing. Logan pointed toward the garage walls. "You think this place matters because you built it." He laughed softly. "But all I see is an old mechanic too scared to move on." Brady's face remained calm, almost unreadable. That began unsettling Logan now, because intimidation depended on visible fear, and Brady showed none. The silence stretched too long. Finally, Logan shook his head. "Jesus, she was right about you." Then he dragged his fingers slowly across the Shelby's hood, deliberately. The faint scratch sound sliced through the garage. Brady's jaw tightened, very slightly. That was all. Logan noticed, and mistook it for weakness instead of restraint. Big mistake. Outside, Vanessa suddenly stepped out of the Audi and hurried toward the garage through the rain. She sensed something shifting, too. Brady looked at the new scratch under the lights, then at Logan. Still calm, still controlled, but now absolutely certain about something. Claire Whitmore had been right. People exposed themselves eventually. You only had to let them keep talking long enough. Logan spread his arms again. "What? You gonna cry over paint now?" Brady slowly reached toward the nearby workbench. Not for a weapon, for his phone. That confused Logan immediately. Brady unlocked the screen calmly. Then he looked directly at Logan. "You should leave now." Logan laughed again. Or what? Brady's thumb hovered near the emergency call button. Rain exploded against the roof overhead. The garage cameras continued recording every second. And somewhere beneath Logan Pierce's confidence, the first small crack of uncertainty finally appeared. The rain sounded louder after Brady picked up the phone. Maybe because nobody inside the garage spoke for several seconds afterward. Logan Pierce stared at him across the Shelby's hood, still expecting emotion, still expecting anger. Men like Logan understood shouting, threats, fists against walls. What unsettled them was discipline. Brady Henderson held the phone loosely in one hand while water dripped steadily from Logan's coat onto the polished concrete floor. "You calling the cops?" Logan asked finally. Brady's voice stayed calm. "I'm giving you one chance to leave." Logan laughed immediately, but the sound came thinner now. "You serious?" Brady looked toward the fresh mark across the Shelby's paint. Then back at Logan. "Yes." Outside, Vanessa stepped into the garage, rainwater shining across her hair and coat sleeves. "Logan," she said quickly, "just forget it." He barely looked at her. "No. I'm tired of this guy acting like some victim." Brady's thumb moved once across the phone screen. "Emergency call ready." The overhead lights reflected sharply against the Shelby's dark green paint between them. Vanessa finally noticed the scratch. "Oh my God," she muttered quietly. Logan rolled his eyes. "It's barely visible," Brady answered without raising his voice. "That car is insured for more than your Escalade." Silence. A very small silence. But important. Logan smirked again, though less naturally this time. "Bullshit." Brady did not answer. That made it worse. Because uncertainty began replacing confidence behind Logan's eyes. Vanessa folded her arms tightly against herself. "Brady, nobody came here to fight?" Brady looked at her briefly. "No," he said quietly. "He came here to intimidate me." The sentence landed hard because it was true. Simple truths usually did. Logan stepped forward again immediately. "Intimidate you," he snapped. "You think anybody's scared of a mechanic hiding in a garage?" Brady remained still. Rain hammered the roof hard enough to shake the metal supports overhead. Then Logan made another mistake. He shoved Brady lightly with one hand. Not enough to injure. Enough to establish dominance. Or at least that was the intention. Brady stepped backward, half a pace from the force, and hit the edge of the workbench behind him. Several wrenches rattled softly across the steel surface. Vanessa's face changed instantly. "Logan." But Brady had already pressed the call button. 911 answered almost immediately through the speaker. "Spokane Emergency Services." "What's your location?" Brady never took his eyes off Logan. "Henderson Restoration and Auto. South Perry Street." "What's happening?" Sir Brady's voice stayed even. "I have an individual trespassing inside my garage. Property damage occurred. He just made physical contact with me after refusing to leave." Logan stared at him in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me." The dispatcher continued speaking calmly. "Are there weapons involved?" "No." "Is anyone injured?" "No." "Officers are being dispatched now. Thank you." Brady ended the call. The garage suddenly felt very different afterward. The performance had ended. Reality entered the room the moment law enforcement became involved. Logan laughed once under his breath and paced away from the Shelby. "You serious right now?" Brady placed the phone carefully on the workbench. "You should leave before they arrive." Logan pointed toward him aggressively. "You think this makes you look tough?" "No." "Then what the hell are you doing?" Brady's eyes shifted briefly toward the ceiling camera above the center bay. Then back toward Logan. "Protecting my property." Vanessa noticed the glance upward immediately. Her expression changed. Small, but visible. She looked toward the ceiling too, toward the tiny red recording light blinking near the support beam, then toward the second camera above the garage door, and finally toward the third mounted beside the office wall. The color slowly drained from her face. "Brady," she whispered. He said nothing. Logan followed her gaze upward. For the first time since entering the garage, uncertainty crossed his face openly. "How long have those been recording?" Brady answered calmly. "The entire time." The rain outside sounded almost violent now. Water rushed through gutters. Wind pushed against the garage doors hard enough to make the metal tremble. Inside, nobody moved. Then Logan scoffed loudly again, trying to recover confidence. "So what? You recorded a conversation. And property damage. That scratch means nothing." Brady reached toward the workbench and opened a folder. Inside sat the insurance appraisal for the Shelby. He slid the paper across the steel surface without speaking. Logan grabbed it, read the number, then read it again. $342,000. His expression shifted before he could stop it. Tiny changes mattered, especially to observant people. Vanessa stared at the document too. What she whispered. Brady looked at her calmly. "You never asked what I worked on in here." The silence afterward felt heavier than shouting. Logan tossed the paper back onto the bench. "That appraisal doesn't prove anything." "No," Brady agreed quietly. "The cameras do." Logan looked upward again automatically. Another mistake. Because guilty people always checked where evidence existed. Vanessa suddenly stepped closer toward Brady. "Can we just stop this?" she asked quickly. "Please." Brady's face remained steady. "I asked him to leave 3 times. Logan scoffed again. "You're really trying to ruin people's lives over a damn car." Brady shook his head once. "No. You did that yourself." The sentence hit harder than yelling would have, because Logan knew it was becoming true. Somewhere in the distance outside, faint sirens began cutting through the rain. Still far away, but approaching. Vanessa heard them first. "Oh my God." Logan looked toward the garage door. For the first time all night, he looked less like a confident real estate broker and more like a man calculating consequences. Brady noticed immediately. That was the thing about pressure. It exposed structure. Cheap materials cracked first. Logan pointed toward Brady again. "You planned this." "No." "Yes, you did." Brady folded the insurance appraisal neatly back into the folder. "You chose to come here." The sirens grew louder now, closer. Rainwater streamed beneath the garage door in thin silver lines, while blue and red reflections flickered faintly against the windows outside. Vanessa's breathing had become shallow. "Logan, just go." But Logan's pride had already trapped him. Men like him feared humiliation more than danger. "You think some cameras make you smarter than everybody else?" he snapped. Brady looked directly at him. "No. They make lying harder." The words landed with surgical precision. Vanessa lowered her eyes immediately. Logan noticed that too. And suddenly, something uglier flashed across his face. Not confidence anymore. Panic. Because the room had shifted completely away from intimidation. Now it was evidence. Records. Insurance. Trespassing. Police reports. The kinds of things men like Brady understood better than men like Logan ever expected. The first patrol car pulled into the lot outside. Headlights washed across the garage doors through heavy rain. Another followed seconds later. Logan cursed quietly under his breath. Brady picked up his phone again calmly. Then he stepped aside from the Shelby and looked toward the entrance. Outside, police doors opened. Radios crackled through the storm. Vanessa stood frozen near the workbench, staring at the cameras above them. And Brady Henderson realized something important in that exact moment. Logan Pierce had walked into the garage believing he controlled the situation. But the garage had never been built for intimidation. It had been built for protection, for records, for truth. And now every second inside it belonged to Brady. The first police officer entered the garage with rainwater dripping from his jacket shoulders. Tall, mid-30s, calm eyes already scanning the room before anyone spoke. A second officer followed behind him carrying a small flashlight, though the garage was brightly lit. The overhead lights reflected off wet boots, polished concrete, and the dark green Shelby sitting silently between the men. "Everybody, stay where you are," the first officer said. Nobody argued. That helped. Brady Henderson stood near the workbench with both hands visible at his sides. Logan Pierce remained several feet away near the garage entrance, jaw tight, trying to recover confidence. Vanessa stood between them, looking pale beneath the harsh fluorescent lighting. Outside, rain continued, hammering the roof hard enough to blur the patrol lights flashing through the windows. The first officer looked toward Brady. "You made the call." "Yes." "What happened?" Brady answered the same way he handled invoices or repair estimates. Clear. Direct. "This man entered my property after being told not to. He damaged a client vehicle and made physical contact with me after refusing to leave. No extra emotion, no dramatic language, just facts." The officer nodded once and turned toward Logan. Sir Logan spread his hands immediately. "This is insane. I came here to talk." "Were you asked to leave?" Logan hesitated. "Small mistake." "Well, technically, yes or no?" Another pause. "Yes?" The officer's expression changed slightly. "Did you leave?" "No," because he started escalating. Brady remained silent while Logan spoke. Claire Whitmore's advice stayed fixed in his mind. Never interrupt people while they expose themselves. The second officer walked slowly around the Shelby, studying the fresh scratch beneath the overhead lights. "That the damage?" Brady nodded. "Yes." Logan scoffed immediately. "It's barely visible." The officer ignored him. "Whose vehicle?" "A client's." "Value?" Brady answered calmly. "Appraised at $342,000. That changed the atmosphere instantly. The officers exchanged a quick glance. Vanessa closed her eyes briefly. Logan laughed nervously. "Come on. Nobody believes that." Brady walked toward the workbench and opened the appraisal folder. Then he handed the documents over without a word. Insurance records, restoration documentation, appraisal signatures, everything organized. The officer read quietly for several moments, then nodded once. "Looks legitimate." Logan's confidence slipped again, visible now. Because people who depended on charm usually collapsed once paperwork entered the room. The first officer looked back toward Brady. "You mentioned physical contact." Brady nodded once. "He shoved me into the workbench after I asked him to leave." Logan immediately raised his voice. "Oh, please, I barely touched him." The officer looked directly at him. "So you did touch him?" Another mistake. Logan realized it too late. Vanessa finally spoke up quickly. It wasn't like that. The officer lifted one hand politely. Ma'am, I'll speak with you in a moment. Silence returned. Then Brady pointed quietly toward the ceiling. Everything's recorded. All eyes shifted upward. Small red recording lights blinked steadily from 3 different corners of the garage. The second officer let out a low breath. Audio 2, yes. Logan looked sick for the first time all night. Not furious, afraid, because truth trapped people differently than accusations did. The first officer nodded toward Brady. Can we see the footage? Of course. Brady walked calmly toward the hidden office entrance near the back wall. Logan noticed the concealed doorway opening for the first time. His expression changed again. Confusion now. The officers followed Brady inside while Vanessa and Logan remained near the garage entrance. Inside the office, the officers stopped briefly. Rows of organized files lined the walls. Security monitors displayed every angle of the property. Backup servers hummed softly beneath the desk. The first officer glanced around slowly. You built all this yourself? Yes. Brady inserted a security drive into the system. Within seconds, footage loaded across the monitor. Time-stamped. Clear audio. Crystal sharp image quality. The officers watched the entire interaction unfold. Logan entering aggressively, refusing repeated requests to leave, touching the Shelby, dragging fingers across the paint, shoving Brady near the workbench. Every second documented perfectly. Nobody spoke while the footage played. When it ended, the room stayed quiet. Another moment. Then the second officer muttered softly, Well, that simplifies things. The first officer looked toward Brady. You planning to press charges? Brady folded his hands calmly. I want the trespassing documented, and the property damage included in the report. No anger, no revenge, just procedure. The officer nodded. That's reasonable. Outside in the garage, Logan paced near the Shelby, while Vanessa stood motionless beside the workbench. The moment the officers re-entered, Logan tried recovering control immediately. So what now? He snapped. You arresting people over a scratch? The first officer's voice stayed flat. You unlawfully remained on private property after multiple requests to leave. Logan scoffed. This is personal. No, the officer replied calmly. This is documented. That sentence hit harder than expected. Vanessa lowered her eyes again. The second officer stepped toward Logan. I'm advising you officially, you are no longer permitted on this property unless invited directly by the owner. Logan's jaw flexed. You serious? Yes. And the damage, that becomes a civil matter unless the owner chooses otherwise. Logan looked toward Brady immediately, trying to read him, trying to predict whether the quiet mechanic finally intended to retaliate emotionally. But Brady's expression never changed. That unsettled Logan more than yelling would have. The first officer turned toward Vanessa next. Ma'am, are you legally listed on the property? Deed? Vanessa hesitated. I'm married to him. That wasn't the question. Silence. Brady answered calmly. The property predates the marriage. Vanessa looked toward him sharply. You never said that. Brady met her eyes steadily. You never asked. The officer nodded once, mentally filing that information away. Then he handed Brady a small report card with the case number written across it. Officer statements and incident documentation will be available Monday. Thank you. The second officer looked once more toward the Shelby, then toward Logan. "If I were you, I'd stop coming here. Not aggressive, just practical advice." Outside, the rain had finally started weakening. Blue and red patrol reflections flickered softer now across the garage walls. Logan grabbed his gloves angrily from the workbench. "This whole thing's pathetic," he muttered. Nobody answered, because nobody needed to. The cameras already had. Logan stormed toward the garage door, shoving it open hard enough to rattle the frame. Cold rain air swept inside again. Vanessa remained frozen near the workbench, not following him immediately. That seemed to irritate Logan even more. "You coming or not?" She looked toward Brady first. He stood beside the Shelby quietly beneath the overhead lights, calm, controlled, untouched by the chaos around him. Something about that finally frightened her, because for weeks she believed Brady was simply passive, weak, emotionally detached. But now she understood something different. Brady had not been ignoring reality. He had been preparing for it. Vanessa walked slowly toward the exit without another word. The officers followed them outside into the rain-soaked lot. Moments later, Logan's SUV roared out onto South Perry Street with tires spraying water behind it. The patrol cars remained another few minutes longer before finally leaving too. Then silence returned. Real silence this time. Only rain dripping from gutters outside. Brady closed the garage door slowly, locked it, then turned back toward the Shelby. The scratch still reflected faintly beneath the lights. He walked toward the workbench and carefully placed the police report card beside the insurance appraisal and property deed already sitting there. 3 pieces of paper now. Ownership, value, documentation. Brady stared at them quietly. Then his phone buzzed. A text message. Claire Whitmore. "Saw the police report notification. Call me tomorrow morning." Brady locked the phone screen again. Then he looked around the garage. At the cameras, the polished floors, the hidden office behind reinforced walls. Everything functioning exactly as intended. And for the first time since Logan Pierce entered his life, Brady understood something clearly. The intimidation phase was over now. What came next would happen inside systems. Banks, law firms, insurance claims, property records, places where calm men usually won. Vanessa Henderson did not sleep that night. Brady knew because he heard her pacing upstairs long after midnight. Soft footsteps crossing hardwood floors. Bathroom sink turning on and off. Closet doors opening, closing. Then silence. Then pacing again. Brady stayed in the detached garage until almost 2 a.m, reviewing security backups and organizing digital copies of the police report files into encrypted folders. Not obsessively. Methodically. That difference mattered. Outside Spokane sat buried beneath freezing rain and low clouds. Streetlights reflected across wet pavement while snowmelt streamed into storm drains. Inside the garage, Brady moved calmly between workbench and office desk. The Shelby scratch had already been corrected. The paint now looked flawless again beneath the overhead lights. But Brady still photographed everything. Before repair, during repair, after repair. Time-stamped, documented, because evidence weakened quickly when left incomplete. At 7:12 a.m. his phone rang. Claire Whitmore. Brady answered immediately. "You all right?" she asked. "Yes." I reviewed the preliminary police summary. Brady poured black coffee into a thermos while listening. Claire continued, "Your recordings were extremely helpful. That was the point." A brief silence followed. Then her tone sharpened slightly. "I also contacted Northwest Federal Lending this morning." Brady stopped moving. "And they officially flagged the attempted home equity application as suspected fraud." Cold morning light crept through the garage windows while Brady stood silently near the workbench. Claire lowered her voice slightly. "They're opening a formal review into the forged signature." Brady looked toward the hidden office, toward the filing cabinets filled with copies of every financial record tied to the property. "Do they know who submitted it?" "Not yet. But they will." "Yes." Claire paused. "Brady, I need you to understand something clearly now. This situation is moving beyond marital issues." He waited. "Forgery tied to lending institutions creates very serious problems." Brady's voice remained level. "I understand. I don't think Vanessa fully understands." That Brady believed. The call ended shortly afterward. Then Brady drove to the main house for the first time since the police left. The kitchen looked untouched from the night before. One wine glass still sat beside the sink. Vanessa stood near the dining room window wearing sweatpants and an oversized sweatshirt. No makeup, hair tied carelessly back. She looked exhausted. Brady removed his jacket slowly. "We need to talk," she said immediately. He nodded once. "Okay." That calmness unsettled her. Vanessa folded her arms tightly. "You humiliated me last night." Brady opened the refrigerator and grabbed orange juice. "No," he answered quietly. "Logan did." "That's not fair." Brady poured the drink without rushing. He entered private property after being told not to. "You called the police over an argument." Brady looked toward her. "I called because he damaged property and shoved me." Vanessa shook her head immediately. "You're twisting everything." "No." The single word stopped her. Not because it was loud, because it was certain. Vanessa looked away first. That mattered too. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Brady reached into his jacket pocket and placed a printed document on the kitchen counter. Northwest Federal Lending Fraud Review Notice. Vanessa stared at it. Her face slowly lost color. "What is this?" "Someone attempted to open a home equity line using my signature." Vanessa's breathing changed immediately. Small. Fast. "I didn't." Brady interrupted calmly. "The signature was forged." Silence crashed into the room. The refrigerator hummed softly behind them. Rain tapped against the windows. Vanessa stared at the paper without touching it. Then finally, Logan said it was preliminary paperwork. Brady said nothing, because the sentence already revealed everything. Vanessa realized that too late. Her eyes widened slightly. "Oh my God." Brady remained still. "You signed something." It was not a question. Vanessa lowered herself slowly into one of the kitchen chairs. "I thought," she swallowed hard, "I thought we were just exploring options." Brady leaned lightly against the counter. "Against property you don't own." Vanessa looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Brady walked toward the hallway cabinet, opened a drawer, removed another folder. Then he placed it beside the fraud notice. "The prenup addendum." Vanessa frowned immediately. "What is this?" "You signed it during the refinance." "I never—" "You did." Brady opened the document directly to the signature page. Her signature sat there beneath notarized stamps and legal witness lines. Vanessa stared at it silently. Then she began reading. The kitchen grew completely quiet, except for pages turning. Brady watched her carefully, not cruelly, just observing the moment reality finally caught up. Halfway through the document, Vanessa's face changed completely. "You protected everything," Brady answered honestly. "I protected what existed before the marriage. The garage, too. Yes. The house. Yes." Her eyes moved rapidly across the legal language again. Separate property, pre-marital ownership, business asset protection, inherited capital exclusions. Vanessa looked stunned. Not angry yet. Lost. Because for months, she and Logan had spoken about the property like future money already belonged to them. Now the foundation beneath those assumptions collapsed all at once. "You knew this entire time," she whispered. "Yes." "And you never said anything." Brady's expression remained steady. "You never asked." That sentence hurt her more than accusations would have. Vanessa closed the folder slowly. Then she looked toward the detached garage through the rain-covered kitchen window. "That garage is really worth that much." Brady took a slow sip of coffee. More. The silence afterwards stretched long and uncomfortable. Finally, Vanessa rubbed both hands across her face. "Oh my God." At 11:26 a.m., another call came. This time from Pierce Urban Realty. Not to Brady, to Vanessa. He heard enough from across the kitchen. "Yes, he's not here right now." Pause. "No, I understand." Longer pause. Vanessa's face drained again. "What complaint?" Brady looked up slowly from the paperwork on the table. "Complaint. Interesting word." Vanessa listened another minute before hanging up carefully. Then she stared blankly toward the counter. "What happened?" Brady asked calmly. She swallowed hard. "Logan's brokerage received notice this morning." "What kind?" "They're reviewing conduct violations." Brady nodded once. "Not surprised." "Police reports created paper trails." Paper trails spread, especially in professional licensing circles. Vanessa looked at him carefully now. Really carefully. As though trying to understand who her husband actually was for the first time in years. "You already had all of this prepared," she said quietly. Brady folded one of the legal documents neatly back into its folder. "No." Vanessa frowned. "Yes, you did." Brady met her eyes steadily. "I prepared for problems. Not for this specific one." That distinction mattered. Prepared people built systems before emergencies existed. Impulsive people reacted after damage already happened. Vanessa leaned back slowly in the chair. Outside rain drifted steadily across the backyard between the house and detached garage. The same garage she once mocked. The same building Logan wanted to tear down. Now it stood there differently somehow. Not like a workshop. Like a fortress she never understood. At 2:40 p.m., Brady's phone buzzed again. Claire Whitmore. Short message. "Northwest Federal escalating investigation. Do not communicate directly with Pierce about financial matters anymore." Brady locked the screen again. Then he looked toward Vanessa. She sat staring at the paperwork in silence. And for the first time since Logan Pierce entered their lives, fear finally replaced arrogance inside the house. Not fear of Brady, fear of consequences. Richard Callahan arrived from Seattle in a black diesel Ford F-35, pulling an enclosed trailer worth more than most people's homes. The truck rolled into Henderson Restoration and Auto at 8:06 on a gray Thursday morning while thin snow drifted across South Perry Street. Brady Henderson was already outside waiting, hands in jacket pockets, coffee steaming in the cold air. The garage doors stood open behind him. Richard climbed down slowly from the truck. 63 years old, broad shoulders, thick silver hair, expensive boots worn by someone who actually used them instead of displaying them. He shook Brady's hand firmly. "How's my girl looking?" Brady nodded once toward the garage interior. "Ready?" Richard smiled immediately. Best words I've heard all week. Inside the garage, fluorescent lights reflected softly across polished concrete floors and spotless tool cabinets. The Shelby waited near the center bay beneath its gray protective cover. Richard walked toward it slowly, almost respectfully. People who truly loved rare machines never rushed first impressions. Brady pulled the cover back carefully. The dark Highland green paint appeared beneath the lights like deep water. Perfect chrome, perfect lines, perfect restoration. Richard stopped moving for several seconds. Then he let out a low breath. "Jesus Christ." Brady remained quiet. Richard circled the car slowly. His fingertips hovered near the bodywork without touching it. "Factory correct stripe placement," he muttered. Another step. Original Cobra jet block. Another. Even the damn fasteners are period accurate. He looked toward Brady with genuine disbelief. "You rebuilt history in here." Brady shrugged slightly. "I rebuilt a car." Richard laughed once. "No. Plenty of people rebuild cars. This is different." The garage fell quiet again while Richard inspected every inch carefully beneath the lights. Then he stopped near the passenger side quarter panel. His eyes narrowed slightly. "What happened here?" Brady answered honestly. "Minor damage last week." Richard looked up immediately. "What kind of damage?" Brady walked toward the workbench and handed him the repair documentation file. Included inside before photographs, insurance claim records, repair invoices, police report reference numbers. Richard read silently for nearly a minute. Then his expression hardened. "Some idiot touched the car." "Yes." Richard closed the folder slowly. "You pressing charges. Civil documentation only." Richard stared at Brady carefully. "You're calmer than most men would be." Brady leaned lightly against the workbench. "Anger usually makes expensive situations worse." Richard smiled faintly. "Your father teach you that?" Brady paused, then nodded once. "Something like that." Outside, a second vehicle pulled slowly into the lot. Vanessa's Audi. Brady noticed immediately. Richard followed his gaze toward the window. "That's your wife?" "Yes." Vanessa stepped out cautiously beneath the overcast sky. No luxury clothes today. No arrogance either. She walked toward the garage slower than usual. The moment she entered, her eyes landed on the Shelby, fully uncovered beneath the lights. And for the first time, she truly saw it. Not as an old car, not as garage clutter, as value, as craftsmanship, as something powerful she failed to understand. Richard watched her expression change in real time. Interesting man, observant. Vanessa stopped several feet from the car. "That's the same one," Brady nodded once. Richard extended his hand politely. "Richard Callahan." Vanessa shook it carefully. "You came from Seattle for this." Richard gave a short laugh. "I'd fly from New York for this." Vanessa looked back toward Brady slowly. Richard noticed that too. "Your husband's reputation reaches farther than he probably tells people." Brady ignored the compliment. Vanessa remained silent, because suddenly dozens of small memories rearranged themselves inside her mind. The late nights, the locked office, the quiet clients, the shipping invoices, the collectors calling from other states. She had mistaken silence for lack of success. A common mistake. Richard continued inspecting the Shelby. Then he glanced toward the hidden office area. You still running private restoration contracts? Yes. How booked are you? Depends on the work. Richard nodded thoughtfully. Then he reached inside his coat pocket and removed a folded document envelope. Good. He handed it toward Brady. 3 more. Brady opened the envelope calmly. Inside sat preliminary contracts for 3 additional restorations. 1968 Charger R/T. 1970 Boss 429 Mustang. 1965 Corvette Stingray. Estimated combined project value over $800,000. Vanessa saw the numbers immediately. Her breathing changed slightly. Richard noticed that too. These collectors don't trust many people, he said. Too many shops cut corners now. Brady folded the contracts neatly again. When would they arrive, spring shipment? Brady nodded once. That works. Vanessa stared at him carefully. You never told me any of this. Brady answered without emotion. You never wanted to know. Silence. Cold and sharp. Because, again, it was true. Richard cleared his throat lightly, sensing tension without fully understanding it. Wells, he muttered. Looks like I walked into the middle of something. Brady gave a faint nod. Something like that. Outside, snow began falling harder across the parking lot. Richard eventually stepped back from the Shelby and smiled again. You know what I like most about this place? Brady waited. It still looks like a working man's garage. Vanessa lowered her eyes slightly. Richard continued. Most people with talent start pretending after they make money. You didn't. Brady looked around the garage, at the tool cabinets, the hydraulic lifts, the old snap-on toolbox from his father. I built it to work, he said simply. Richard smiled wider. That's why you'll keep succeeding. At noon, they carefully loaded the Shelby into the enclosed trailer. Brady secured the wheel straps himself, double-checked every anchor point. Richard watched the process approvingly, still treating it like it's yours. Brady tightened the final strap. It matters until it reaches the client safely. Outside the garage, Vanessa stood silently beside her Audi, watching everything unfold. Richard climbed into his truck again before lowering the window. One more thing, he called toward Brady. Brady looked up. Richard nodded toward the garage. Expand this place. Brady frowned slightly. Why? Because you're already operating bigger than this building. Then Richard smiled once more. And stop hiding from success. You earned it. The truck engine roared alive moments later. Snow sprayed beneath heavy tires as the trailer slowly disappeared down South Perry Street, carrying the Shelby towards Seattle. Silence returned afterward. Vanessa stood beside the garage entrance, with both hands inside her coat pockets. Cold wind drifted through the open bay doors. Finally, she spoke quietly. Logan said you were barely keeping the business alive. Brady picked up the gray vehicle cover from the floor and folded it neatly. Logan says a lot of things. Vanessa watched him carefully. You could have told me. Brady set the folded cover onto a storage shelf. Would it have mattered? She opened her mouth, then stopped, because neither of them truly believed it would have. Brady walked toward the office desk and opened Richard's new contracts again. 3 more restorations. 3 more years of work waiting. Outside Spokane, traffic moved slowly beneath falling snow. Inside the garage, something had shifted permanently. Not emotionally, socially. The illusion surrounding Brady Henderson had cracked open. The quiet mechanic, the man in flannel, the husband everyone underestimated. Now there were police reports, fraud investigations, collector contracts, six-figure restorations. And somewhere across Spokane, Logan Pierce was probably realizing the same thing Vanessa finally understood. He had mistaken simplicity for weakness. That mistake was beginning to cost him everything. Late that afternoon, installers arrived carrying a long rectangular crate. Brady signed quietly and directed them toward the front exterior wall above the garage entrance. Vanessa watched from the parking lot while they mounted the new brushed steel sign into place. Henderson Restoration Studio. The metal letters reflected cold winter light against the falling snow. Vanessa stared at the sign for a long time, because suddenly the garage no longer looked like a place Brady hid inside. It looked exactly what it had always been. An empire built quietly enough that nobody noticed until it was already standing over them. The house became quiet after Vanessa moved out. Not empty. Quiet. There was a difference. Empty spaces felt abandoned. Quiet spaces felt settled. 3 weeks after the night Logan Pierce walked into the garage, a gray moving truck sat outside the Henderson house beneath pale Spokane morning light. Snow lined the sidewalks in dirty piles, now beginning to melt at the edges as winter slowly weakened. Brady Henderson stood in the driveway wearing a dark flannel jacket and work gloves, while two movers carried boxes down the front steps. Vanessa supervised quietly near the curb. No arguments, no screaming, no dramatic ending. That surprised the neighbors more than anything else. Across the street, Mrs. Alvarez pretended to trim dead plants beneath her porch while clearly watching the house. 2 doors down, a man walking his dog slowed noticeably near the driveway. People expected explosions when marriages collapsed, but Brady handled things the same way he handled restoration work. Slowly, carefully, without unnecessary damage. One mover carried down a framed photograph from the upstairs hallway. Vanessa noticed Brady looking at it. Yellowstone National Park, 8 years earlier, before resentment, before Logan, back when they still laughed naturally around each other. Vanessa lowered her eyes first. "Put that in the bedroom boxes," she told the movers softly. Brady said nothing. The cold morning air carried the smell of wet asphalt and melting snow through the neighborhood. Near the detached garage, new steel signage reflected pale sunlight. Henderson Restoration Studio. The building looked different now. Not because Brady changed much physically, because people finally understood what the place represented. Over the past 2 weeks, things had moved quickly. Claire Whitmore formally initiated separation proceedings. Northwest Federal escalated the forged lending documents into an active fraud investigation. Pierce Urban Realty quietly suspended Logan Pierce pending internal review. And Logan himself had nearly disappeared. No more luxury social media posts. No more downtown dinner photos. No more Escalade parked outside expensive restaurants. Silence. Men built on image usually vanished fast once public pressure cracked the surface. At 10:14 a.m., one of the movers approached Brady holding a small cardboard box. "Sir, where do you want these files?" Brady glanced at the label. "Old tax records." Vanessa answered before he could. "Garage office." Brady looked toward her briefly, then nodded once. "Backroom shelf." The mover carried the box across the driveway toward the garage. Vanessa watched him go. "You're really keeping everything exactly the same?" she asked quietly. Brady adjusted one of the work gloves. "Why wouldn't I?" She looked toward the house, then toward the garage, then back at him. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "Most people would probably burn the whole thing down emotionally." Brady almost smiled. Almost. Most people panic. That answer stayed with her. Because it was true. Brady never panicked. Not when Logan appeared. Not during police reports. Not during the fraud investigation. Not even now. That calmness once felt boring to Vanessa. Now, it felt intimidating. At noon, the movers finished loading the truck. Vanessa signed paperwork against the hood of her Audi while cold winds swept leaves across the driveway. Brady walked through the house one final time afterward. The rooms echoed differently now. Upstairs closet space half empty, bathroom shelves cleared, guest room untouched. He moved quietly from room to room, checking windows and lights. Not emotionally wandering, inspecting. When he returned downstairs, Vanessa stood alone near the front door holding her purse. The movers waited outside. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Vanessa looked toward the detached garage through the hallway window. "I used to hate that building," she admitted quietly. Brady slipped keys into his jacket pocket. "I know. I thought it mattered more to you than I did." Brady considered the sentence carefully before answering. "It mattered because I built it." Vanessa swallowed hard. "And me?" Brady met her eyes steadily. "You stopped wanting to build anything with me a long time ago." The honesty landed cleanly. No cruelty attached. That made it harder to fight. Vanessa looked down at the hardwood floor, then finally nodded once. Outside, the moving truck engine started. Low diesel rumble filling the cold afternoon air. Vanessa reached for the door handle, paused, then turned back slightly. "Did you ever actually hate me?" Brady thought about it honestly. The affair, the lies, the forged documents, Logan inside the garage. Then he answered, "No." That surprised her visibly. "I was disappointed," he continued quietly. "There's a difference." Vanessa's eyes watered slightly for the first time since this all began. But Brady did not step forward, did not comfort her. Some distances existed for reasons. Finally, Vanessa opened the front door and walked outside into the cold Spokane afternoon. Brady watched from the hallway while she climbed into the Audi. The moving truck pulled away first. Then Vanessa followed. And just like that, the driveway emptied. Silence settled slowly over the property afterward. Real silence. No tension inside the walls. No hidden phone calls. No waiting for another confrontation. Only winter wind moving softly through bare trees. Brady stood in the driveway alone for several minutes. Then he walked toward the detached garage. The overhead lights clicked on automatically when he entered. Warm light spread across polished concrete floors and organized workstations. The place smelled faintly of steel paint and machine oil. Familiar. Steady. Brady locked the side door behind him. Then he walked through the center bay quietly. The hidden office remained untouched behind reinforced walls. The new contracts from Richard Callahan sat neatly stacked on the desk, waiting for spring deliveries. One corner of the garage had already been cleared for expansion work. Additional lifts, new fabrication equipment, more room. Outside neighbors occasionally drove past slower than usual now, watching the garage, watching Brady, trying to reconcile the quiet mechanic they thought they understood with the man slowly emerging beneath the surface. Mrs. Alvarez even waved awkwardly from across the street earlier that morning. Brady waved back politely. People respected calm strength once they recognized it. The problem was, most only recognized it after conflict exposed it. At 5:47 p.m. sunset faded behind thick gray clouds. The garage darkened except for the overhead shop lights. Brady stood near the center bay holding a tape measure while sketching layout plans onto a yellow legal pad. New lift placement. Expanded paint booth area. Storage redesign. The future looked orderly again. His phone buzzed once. Unknown number. Brady ignored it. A minute later, voicemail notification appeared. He listened calmly. Logan Pierce. Voice strained, different now. No confidence left. Look, things got out of hand. We should probably talk man to man. Brady deleted the voicemail without responding. Then he returned to the layout sketch. Outside evening settled over Spokane quietly. Inside the garage, Brady rolled the tape measure closed with a metallic snap and looked around the room slowly. At the polished floors, the steel beams, the cameras still mounted quietly near the ceiling. Everything exactly where it belonged. For months, this place had become a battlefield. Now it finally felt like a workshop again. Brady walked toward the main garage door and pressed the wall switch. The heavy door rolled downward slowly as cold blue evening light disappeared inch by inch. When the door finally shut, silence wrapped around the garage completely. Brady stood there a moment longer in the warm light, alone. Not lonely, just peaceful. And for the first time in a very long while, the house behind the garage no longer felt like a place waiting for another disaster. Spring arrived slowly in Spokane. Snow disappeared first from the main roads, then from sidewalks, then finally from the shaded corners of parking lots where winter always seemed to linger longest. By April, Henderson Restoration Studio no longer looked like a small neighborhood garage. It looked established, purposeful, elite. The new steel sign above the entrance caught morning sunlight across South Perry Street while delivery trucks and commuters rolled past during rush hour traffic. Inside the garage had changed too. A second hydraulic lift now stood near the rear fabrication area. Fresh white paint covered the walls. New welding equipment lined the expanded workspace beside organized steel racks and diagnostic stations. But Brady Henderson himself looked almost exactly the same. Same worn flannel jackets, same steel lunchbox, same faded Ford F-150 parked beside the building every morning before sunrise. Real confidence rarely changed uniforms. At 6:05 a.m., Brady unlocked the garage while cold spring rain tapped softly against the roof. The smell inside remained familiar. Steel, paint, machine oil, work. He switched on the overhead lights, row by row. Then he walked toward the newest addition near the back workbench. A 19-year-old kid named Ethan Morales stood nervously beside a partially disassembled Corvette transmission. Ethan attended Spokane Community College's automotive technology program 3 mornings a week. The rest of the time, he worked under Brady learning restoration techniques most mechanics never mastered. The kid reminded Brady of himself 25 years earlier. Quiet, focused, still trying to prove he belonged. Ethan looked up immediately when Brady approached. I stayed late finishing the gearbox inspection. Brady set his lunchbox beside the workbench. You document everything. Ethan handed over a clipboard. Measurements, torque readings, part conditions, clean handwriting. Brady reviewed it silently, then nodded once. Good. Ethan relaxed slightly. Most people mistook Brady's quietness for emotional distance. In reality, he paid attention constantly. That was why people respected his approval once they earned it. Outside, rainwater rolled down the front windows of the garage while traffic slowly thickened across Spokane. Inside, work resumed. Air compressors hissed softly. Metal clinked against concrete. The rhythm felt steady again, healthy. At 9:14 a.m., Brady's office computer chimed with a new email notification. He opened it while reviewing supplier invoices. From Vanessa Henderson, subject line blank. The message contained only 3 sentences. I know saying sorry doesn't fix any of this, but I'm sorry for what I became. You deserved better than the way I treated you. Brady read it once, then closed the message quietly. No anger, no satisfaction either. Some apologies arrived too late to rebuild trust, but late honesty still mattered more than continued lies. Ethan walked into the office moments later, carrying a rusted intake manifold. You think this piece is salvageable? Brady stood immediately. Let's look. And just like that, life moved forward again. No dramatic revenge, no triumphant speeches, just work. The kind Brady always trusted more than emotions. Around noon, Richard Callahan called from Seattle. You hiring more people yet? Brady leaned against the workbench while Ethan organized socket trays nearby. Maybe one more this summer. You should. Richard laughed softly through the phone. People are talking about your shop now. Brady glanced around the garage. People talk too much. That's because most businesses collapse when pressure hits them. Yours got stronger. Brady did not answer immediately. Because Richard was right. The garage survived precisely because it had never been built around appearances. It was built around systems, discipline, preparation. The things flashy people usually ignored until everything fell apart. After the call ended, Brady walked toward the hidden office near the back wall. Most of the security monitors were turned off now. Only exterior cameras remained active full-time. The rest no longer felt necessary. He opened the fireproof safe one final time and reviewed the folders inside. Property deeds, insurance records, police documentation, fraud investigation notices, all neatly organized. Finished. Northwest Federal eventually confirmed the forged lending application had been initiated using information traced back through Logan Pierce's brokerage office network. No criminal charges were filed after legal settlements, and licensing penalties followed quickly behind the scenes. But Logan's real estate career never fully recovered afterward. Reputation damage spread quietly in professional circles, the same way good reputations did. Brady closed the safe gently, then locked it. Not because he feared another attack, because order mattered to him. Outside the hidden office, Ethan laughed suddenly at something on his phone. The sound echoed strangely through the garage. Young, uncomplicated. Brady realized he had not heard genuine laughter inside the building for a long time before recently. That mattered too. At 4:40 p.m., a customer arrived to pick up a restored Chevelle. Middle-aged contractor from Idaho. The man walked slowly around the finished car, shaking his head in disbelief. You know, he muttered, I almost took this project to a shop in Portland. Brady wiped grease from his hands calmly. What changed your mind? The customer smiled. People said if I wanted it done right, I needed to come here. After the customer drove away, Brady stood outside the garage, watching taillights disappear down the wet Spokane street. The evening air smelled like rain and fresh asphalt. Behind him, the garage lights glowed warm against the darkening sky. For a moment, he simply stood there, listening. Traffic. Wind. Tools clinking softly inside. Peace sounded quieter than most people expected. At 7:12 p.m., Ethan finally headed home for the evening. You locking up tonight? He asked. Yeah. See you tomorrow, Brady. Brady nodded once. Drive safe. The kid climbed into an old Honda Civic and disappeared into evening traffic. Then the property fell silent again. Brady walked slowly through the garage, turning off unnecessary lights, one section at a time. Fabrication bay darkened first, then paint booth, then storage area. Only the center workspace remained illuminated now. He stopped near the middle of the floor and looked around one final time at the organized tools, the polished concrete, the steel beams overhead, the cameras still mounted quietly in the corners. Months earlier, this place became the center of betrayal, intimidation, and legal conflict. Now it looked like what it was always meant to be, a place built carefully by a man who understood something most people learned too late. Preparation protects peace, not aggression, not noise, not ego. Brady walked toward the main garage door and pressed the control switch. The heavy steel door rolled downward slowly while cool spring air drifted inside one last time. As the opening narrowed, evening sunlight stretched across the floor in long golden lines. Then the door closed completely. Silence settled softly through the building. Brady stood alone beneath the remaining overhead light with both hands resting in his jacket pockets. No fear anymore. No anger either, only stability. The garage had never been built to hide from the world. It had been built to survive it. Brady switched off the final light. Darkness settled calmly around him. Then he locked the door and walked toward the house he finally had back. Life has a way of revealing who people really are when pressure arrives. Loud people often believe confidence is power, but real strength usually looks quieter than that. Brady never won because he shouted louder. He won because he stayed calm long enough to let truth speak for itself. He prepared, carefully documented everything, and refused to let anger destroy his judgment. A lot of people know what it feels like to be underestimated. Sometimes the world looks at a quiet person and assumes they are weak, unsuccessful, or unaware. But appearances hide more than most people realize. The strongest foundations are usually the ones nobody notices until the storm hits. If you've ever been judged unfairly, betrayed by someone you trusted, or forced to rebuild your life, quietly share your story in the comments. And before you go, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. Subscribe if you enjoy stories about patience, consequences, and people who refuse to break under pressure. Tomorrow's story might hit even harder than this one.